Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blazing bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the Forgotten Realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want them? Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind, head out to Cho or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the Forgotten Realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, did you want to dance? Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Okay, I guess I hit that button a little too fast. Welcome, folks. I was going to let the song finish, and suddenly, now we're live. Now we're live. Welcome to Gaarawarr's Guide to the Tutorial Show. Oh, God, do we have everything? Okay, hold on. Is this a valid chess code now? We were having some shenaniganry. Hey, it is. Okay, now I can add it to the overlay. Bam. And Martin is our moderator today, and they will update the command in chat momentarily, I am sure. Wow. All right. Today, we are going to be doing the 2021 Champions review part 3. Part 3. What does that mean? It means we're talking about the latest set of champions that came to the game instead of doing them all at once, because originally, oh man, at the start of this year in January, I did the 2020 champion review where I discussed all 18 champions that came out last year in one show, and that was not great. That was not great. I think for anyone. It was a lot of information, folks. It was a lot of information. So now we're breaking them up. So now I get to talk about a handful of champions, and I think that's much better for everybody involved. So let us talk about now what champions are we talking about today? I've already seen somebody ask, are we going to talk about nerds? Yeah, we're going to talk about nerds. We're going to talk about some nerds. We're going to talk about Eliewick, Prudence, Corazon, Dahani. Unfortunately, Dahani and the nerds are in the same slot. So we will have to break those up. Let me get everybody. See, I got distracted with the whole coterie thing, and now I've got to find everybody again. Here we go. There's Corazon. Where are we at? There we go. There's Prudence. All right. So we can have most of these out, and we will do nerds as a bonus round at the end, because nerds they're out, but not everybody has them yet. because nerds are a promotional champion, and we'll talk more about that when we get to it. So let's dive in. If you just as a quick reminder for everybody, if you haven't been here before, on the tutorial show, you can ask questions. However, for the first hour-ish of the show, it's going to be me just talking to you and not answering questions as I explain all these champions. Your questions will be grasped by Martin firmly, placed in a document, and in the second half of the show, I will address them all. I will tackle things that are on topic first, so these 5 champions that we're going to discuss today, and then we'll go from there. All right, let's do this. Hold on. Didn't want to cough in your ear. All right, so let's talk about some Eliewick first. Eliewick Tumblestrom, the greatest bard in the multiverse. Eliewick sitting down here in slot 10. Eliewick arrived in the game as part of the Magic the Gathering crossover with Dungeons & Dragons. So Eliewick appears not only in the new book, The Wild Beyond the Witchlight, if I recall correctly, but also in the Adventures in the Forgotten Realms Magic set, and in Idle Champions, the game. So Eliewick is built around the Deck of Many Things. And if you are familiar with the Deck of Many Things, or if you aren't, I'm about to explain it to you. The Deck of Many Things is either very wonderful for you or very horrible for you, because it's literally a deck of cards that you pull from, and there are good cards and there are bad cards. And Eliewick's kit reflects this. So you can totally use Eliewick and have Eliewick be amazing because she draws great cards for you, and it's wonderful. Or you could draw some really bad cards and got to pull Eliewick out and put somebody else in. This is how her kit works. So, Eliewick and her friend Groke, you can see him on her shoulder there. They are the gnome bard, the greatest bard in the multiverse. They together, because you know, and if they've got somebody sitting on their shoulder in this game, that means that's actually the person that's super strong. We know this, right, Boo? Quick Strum is the base attack. Eliewick strums her guitar, sending out musical energy to attack up to 3 random enemies. So you do get a nice bit of a multi-attack with her basic attack. Her ultimate, Call of the Feywild. It's longer than it looks. Eliewick draws 6 Feywild creatures to her. They appear on the right side of the screen, so over there where all the enemies are coming in. And they dash across the screen, and they kind of go right through her enemies, dealing damage to them as they pass by. Once they're gathered around Eliewick, Powerful Following is increased by 200%. We're going to talk about Powerful Following in a bit, but it's basically her positional formation buff. So you get a nice party buff for 15 seconds. Plus, all champions adjacent to Eliewick are healed for 50% of their max health. This is one of only a couple health-based percentage heals in the game. Celeste has one that's 100%. Eliewick's is 50%. After 15 seconds, they dash off again to the right, dealing damage to any remaining or newly spawned enemies. So you get a double damage hit with this on a timer. So let me demonstrate what this looks like. See, they all rush out. Now they're back here. And she's going to be a little bit more powerful. Her buff's going to be a little more powerful for 15 seconds. And then they're going to dash off through the cows. If there's any on the screen, once the timer is over. There they go. And they do damage again. And then the buff faded. Now, we were at max health, so that didn't really matter. But yeah. That's how Eliewick's ultimate works. So the Deck of Many Things. As you can see, there's a lot going on here. So yeah. So she draws a random card from the Deck of Many Things, gaining a random effect from below. The effect persists until she draws a new card. She draws a new random card from the Deck of Many Things after completing 100 areas in the formation. So if you're not going very far with Eliewick, you get what you get on that first card, basically. Eliewick is a champion who gets better as you do, in the sense that you can go further areas in the game. And if you've had her in the whole time, she's pulled card after card after card. and gotten lots and lots of stacks. And if your card draws were good, or even mostly good, this could end up very well for you. If they weren't, well, you might have to find a swap for her. If you can, there are in-game people who are going well over 1,000 levels in the game. If they have Eliewick in the whole time, they could potentially have lots and lots of stacks of different things that we're going to talk about. And that could make her quite a bit better than somebody who only is going to like level 125 or 150, right? So keep in mind, some champions in the game do better the further you can go with them, and Eliewick is one of them. She gets a new card after completing 100 areas in the formation. This card replaces any card she's already holding. She can draw the same card multiple times during an adventure, but cannot draw the same one twice in a row. There have been some bugs with Eliewick where she does draw it twice in a row, but again, if you run into that situation, submit a bug report so they can track that down. So there are multiple effects here. The Knight, you grant 1 Knight stack for every 100 enemies defeated while this card is active. Knight stacks affect the powerful following ability, which we'll get to in a moment. Maximum of 25 Knight stacks can be earned each time this card is active. So you can't just farm out infinite stacks. They are capping you for each time it comes up as to how powerful you can get on that rotation. And Knight stacks persist after the card is discarded. So these are stacks that last during this adventure, but all stacks reset at the end of your adventure. When you complete your adventure, all stacks reset. That is a good thing, because some of these stacks are negative. We'll get to that. Moon grants 1 moon stack for each boss loot sack earned while this card is active. So again, you want Eliewick in as soon as possible, and you want her in through all of the boss fights. Now, before anybody asks, because this is a boss loot sack earned, if Briv jumps the boss, if you're using Briv, Steel Marrow, and he jumps the boss, well, you still get the loot sack when you jump bosses and everything in it. So this would still grant you moon stacks. Moon stacks affect Eliewick's greatest song in the multiverse ability. A maximum of 20 moon stacks can be earned each time this card is active. Only half of the total moon stacks persist after the card is discarded, rounded up. So this one's limited a bit more in how much power you can earn each time. It's still going. The Fates disable all existing stacks from the deck of many things while this card is active. When this card is discarded, all existing stacks amounts are increased by 25% rounded up. This can be a major bummer. This can literally stop your progress. If you're using Eliewick and you have lots of stacks, and she's a buff you're relying on to push your wall, and then suddenly all those buffs go away. This is one of the negative cards. If you can survive through it and continue to push, it becomes a positive part. But that means you have to leave her in and push through that kind of downward trough of power. So the Fates early on isn't bad, but later on, real bad. Real bad. Flames. Grants 1 flame stack when this card is drawn. All monsters move 100% faster and deal 100% more damage while this card is active for each flame stack you have, stacking additively. All flame stacks persist after the card is discarded. Now, that doesn't mean they're functional after the card's discarded. They're not supposed to function. There was a bug where they were for a while, but I believe that's been fixed for most people. People don't like getting lots of flame stacks, and I think, obviously people don't like it when things do more damage. However, I will say I don't mind if I get 1 or even 2. Having enemies move towards my formation quicker is almost like having a speed effect in the game. They get to the tank and they ramp the buffs up quicker, and then I kill them faster, as long as I can handle the extra damage. And 100% or even 200% damage, at certain times in the game isn't necessarily horrible. If it goes beyond that, well, maybe not the greatest thing in the world. So Flames is another negative card. So keep that in mind. Fates and Flames are the ones you don't want. Everyone else you kind of do. Gem, the final one. Apparently no holograms with Eliewick. Gain 1 gem stack for every 3 gems collected with this while this card is active. Gem stacks affect Eliewick's Fortunate Soul ability. A maximum of 20 gem stacks can be earned each time this card is active. Only 75% of the total gem stacks persist. Rounded up. So Gem's another one. Now we need to talk about what are all these abilities that they're buffing. Powerful Following. Eliewick increases the damage of champions in the column behind her by 100%. So this is a positional formation ability. That means Eliewick wants to be in the column right ahead of your DPS. That is Eliewick's ideal positioning. In this... somebody caught my reference. In this formation, you would want something like this if you were putting them right in front of the DPS, right? As a buffer. Because she is healing support gold. She's healing support gold. So, this ability is increased by 10% for each night stack that Eliewick has, stacking additively and applying multiplicatively. So, basically it's just 10% per stack. So, if there's 25 stacks, like off one round of those, then you get a 250% bonus that multiplies against Powerful Following. The base damage of 100% of that, right? So multiple night stacks, really great if you're using her specifically for this positional formation ability. And anything that interacts with positional formation abilities obviously interacts with Eliewick. Scrolling down, greatest song in the multiverse. Eliewick plays music that emboldens the hearts of her allies and saps the will of her enemies. This ability decreases the max health of enemies by 50%. For every 5 moon stacks, the enemy health debuff is applied again, stacking multiplicatively with itself. So this means moon stacks actually, instead of they don't buff your party, they debuff your enemies, and they specifically debuff their health. This can, if you get a lot of moon stacks, this can be, because it's 50% stacked again and again and again and again. You never get to 100% of their health, but you can get to some pretty high multipliers of removals of health into the, the 99.999, like that kind of stuff. And that can be an actual solid debuff if you're doing, if you get lucky and you could use it in click debuff formations, or just in general because you get a nice big health removal. But, if it just ends up in the 70, 80, 90 range, it's okay. It's okay. That's not going to get you, because we're using large numbers in this game, that's not going to get you a lot of progress, but, this is just part of her kit. It's part of the RNG of her kit, is combining these different things. Fortunate Soul is the Gold Find ability. Its Gold Find is increased by 50%, and that's just the base. This ability is increased by 5% for each gem stack Eliewick has. Again, stacking additively and applying multiplicatively. So if you want to use Eliewick, if you're doing a deep run for favor and you want to gamble with Eliewick, put Eliewick in early on, see if she gets a lot of gem stacks. She might. If she does, she can be a great addition to your Gold Find Urazaka farming formation. Again, because she's based off RNG, you may get to the end and you didn't get what you wanted and you have to go with somebody else. It's just the way her kit is designed. It's built, again, around the Deck of Many Things, and that is true to the lore of the Deck of Many Things. You don't always get what you want. So specializations, her specialization choices across the board attempt to increase the odds of one of the cards you're going to get. So you want to look at this as, what is it that I'm trying to do on this run with Eliewick? And roll the dice, because it is still going to be some RNG. So for the fans, this is the night stacks. It increases the effect of night stacks on Powerful Following by 25% per stack. So it gives you just a flat increase. But then it also increases the chance to draw the night card by 10%. Well, the chances to draw moon and gems are decreased by 5%. So this is you trying to go all in on that positional formation buff in the column behind her. Faster tempo, it only takes 3 moon stacks instead of 5 to increase the effect of the greatest song in the multiverse. So this gives you, more functionality, gives you more power out of what you already have. In addition, the chance to draw the card, again, it's up by 10% while the others are down by 5%. This is consistent across all of these specializations. All the sparkles, this is the Gold Find one, so the effect of gem stacks on Fortunate Soul is increased by 7.5% per stack. Again, so figure out at the beginning of your run which one of these are you trying to focus, and go for it. I tend to, when I remember to, I put her in at the beginning of a run, and I go gems because gems are truly, truly, truly outrageous. That's an 80s reference, folks. I'm sorry, that's what you get. The beard should explain. The beard should explain. Yep, that's everything. Okay. I was like, yeah, she doesn't get anything after the specialization, right? All right. I see that sigh in chat. All right, Gear. She is a support champion, so she does get 2 all champions damage items. Then she goes into Powerful Following, Fortunate Soul abilities. Those 2 are the only ones that actually get an item support. So this is Fortunate Soul. Again, this is the Knight one. This is the Positional Formation ability. Powerful Following is the Knight one. This is the Formation ability. Fortunate Soul. Wow, just everything off today. Fortunate Soul is the Gold Find one. What they didn't want to do is give you an item that buffs the health reduction, because that might get problematic. And then you get the ultimate attack damage. This doesn't affect the healing, because again, the healing is just 50% of the health. So you get a nice flat, hey, here's half your health back. And then this one reduces the cooldown on the ultimate. For feats, she does get damage all champions, because as a support she also gets Gold Find. Now remember, this one is the Fortunate Soul one, but they properly put the coin here to let you know this is a Gold Find buff. She gets Powerful Following, 2 of those, 40% and 80%. If you go for the Witchlight Knights, 50k gems feat. So kind of all in on the support stuff and the buffage and the Gold Find. Nothing that would change the health debuff. And again, kind of rightly so, that would get a little wild. Okay. That's Eliewick. Yeah, let's do Prudence next. I can't remember the order. I think it came out Eliewick, Prudence, Corazon, and Dahani. Prudence came to us from the Oxventurers. Outside Xbox streams. Oxventurers Guild is the affiliation. This was a new affiliation for the game. We will be seeing more of them in the future. Her basic attack, Eldritch Blast. The old tried and true, because she is a warlock, folks. She is a warlock. She is a chaotic evil tiefling warlock. She goes all in on that evil bit. So for people who like evil formations, here you go. Beam of crackling green energy shoots towards an enemy, dealing damage. Her ultimate is a copy-paste of Warden's. So if you're familiar with Warden, you're familiar with Prudence's ultimate. It is the exact same thing. Prudence opens a gateway to the dark between the stars, damaging and pulling enemies to it. It's what I like to refer to as a magnet. It basically just sucks everything in. If I hit it here, it's not gonna. You won't see anything happen because we don't have a bunch of enemies on the screen. But this is what it looks like, and it would have sucked everyone on the screen right into there. It will move them back if they're on the tanks. It will move them forward if they aren't. It's a great ultimate. With her and with Warden, for when you have ranged enemies right here and they're like just out of the range of like Strix's stinky thing, or maybe they're not close enough to get like traitor procs. It just sucks everything in and keeps everything nice and close to your formation. I am a fan of that part. I like it a lot. All right, let's dive in. Glee. Did I mention she was evil? Prudence gains 1 stack of Glee each time she kills an enemy. For each stack of Glee, her damage is increased by 10%, stacking additively. Glee has a 25% chance to lose 1 stack whenever a champion other than Prudence gets a kill. This means early on in your run, Glee's not going to do a whole lot. Because you may still be getting other champions killing things, and so she's not going to build up a lot. But it's going to start ticking up once you get to the point where, when you're using her as your DPS, she's the only one that kills things. It's just going to ramp up consistently from that point on. Delight. Now, again, this is these stacks are not permanent. This is just on the run. I want to make that clear. An ability should always call itself out if stacks are permanent. This will this is pertinent for another part of this today's stream. So keep that in mind, that this is just, you build these up on one stream. Delight increases damage bonus of Prudence's Glee ability by 100% for each good aligned champion in the formation, stacking additively and then applying multiplicatively. Because I guess she delights in killing things in front of people who don't normally like to kill things? I don't know. Maybe. But again, it's good. They're going all in on Glee, so this just is another focus for Glee. It's a nice little bonus. It's not necessarily something you build around. Glee is the thing. Just go kill stuff. But, you know, hey, if you happen to have some good aligned things in the formation, this is gonna give you some bonuses. Resolve increases the max stacks of Prudence's Glee by 10 for each neutral or evil champion in the formation. So if we come over here, you'll note... so I can ramp up Glee. If they just let you ramp it indefinitely, that would be problematic, right? So they give you this cap, and it shows you over here in outgoing effects what the cap is. So right now, because I don't have a lot of things in my formation, I have max of 40 stacks. So I can get this up to 40, depending on how on what your multipliers are here and what things look like. Like here right now, this is a fairly low bonus because I haven't leveled up a lot. You know, it can be a nice little addition, or if it's super high and you have lots of multipliers, it can be, you know, a really nice addition. So keep that in mind. You don't necessarily build around giving her max stacks, but if your best formation actually helps you get that, and maybe there's a couple champions that could go either way, then building around, this is something you want to keep in mind for making her as strong as possible. Frustration. Every time Prudence attacks an enemy but doesn't kill it, she gains a stack of Frustration. Frustration stacks increase her damage by 200%, stacking multiplicatively. We love multiplicative stacking in this house. The maximum number of Frustration stacks is equal to the number of champions adjacent to Prudence. So again, they're capping this out because otherwise, given enough time and a beefy enough tank, you could push forever. So maximum number of Frustration stacks is equal to the number of champions adjacent to Prudence. So placing her, this is one of those key abilities where you're like, well, how do I build a formation around Prudence? Well, this is one of those key things that you want to look at in terms of placing her. There's a reason I put her in the middle of this formation, because that gives her the maximum potential adjacencies. Frustration stacks are reduced by 1 each time Prudence gets a kill. So these can ramp up pretty nicely, and then they stay fairly close. It just depends. So in this positioning, I wouldn't want to put her here. I wouldn't want to put her here or over here, really. I want to put her here because in this position, she could be adjacent to 6 different champions, which gives her the maximum potential Frustration stacks, which means the maximum potential multipliers on Frustration. I believe that's it. Oh yeah, and then we go into the specializations. Her specializations are interesting. She has, one thing I forgot to call out. You'll notice her Eldritch Blast has what I would consider a very long base attack. Normally it's 7 seconds. I'm in the Sword Coast. Sword Coast has a built-in 0.75 second reduction with your blessings, if you have all the blessings. So normally you're looking at a 7-second cooldown. That's a very long base attack for a single target DPS. Keep in mind, Prudence is a single target DPS. So what they do is they built her specializations around either attacking more often. So when Prudence attacks, there's a 50% chance that her base attack cooldown will be immediately reset. So just pow, immediately reset, pow, right? So half the time you're getting multiple attacks. You can do that. Or you can do, shall we say, functionality. She hungers. When Prudence attacks, there's a 5% chance that her ultimate attack cooldown will be immediately reset. And again, this is her ultimate. It's got a decent cooldown timer on it, a couple minutes. There's a chance that after you pop this ultimate off, that her base attack could just reset it instantly. It is a low chance, but it exists. It exists. It's basically rolling a d20 and did you get a crit, right? So that's what your specialization choices are. So what are you using her for? What do you need? If you built her team around providing her AoE, because there are champions that provide some AoE, like Krull and etc., where, you know, you can hit that single target and it pops off damage around it, well, then you maybe you don't need to go for wave clear effectively. Maybe you can be okay with the slow attacks every now and then, and maybe you want to use her ultimate more often. I don't know, maybe. I tend to just, I want to attack all the time. I just want to kill things all the time with Prudence, which I think is fitting, because that's what she wants to do too. That's what she wants to do too, folks. So make Prudence happy, kill all the things. Items. She is a DPS. That's all she is. She's a pure DPS. So she has a DPS item, and then she goes straight into abilities. So here's a buff for her Glee. Here's a buff for Delight. Here's a buff for Frustration. So all of the things get buffed. She's just all about giving herself all these bonuses. Then she gets her ultimate attack damage and her cooldown item. For feats, she does get the self-damage. And again, she gets Glee, she gets Frustration, and she gets Delight. So they really touched across all the feats. They touched on all of her abilities, because they all feed into the straight thing, which is just killing things. That's what Prudence wants to do. Killed things. Corazon. Hold on, now I gotta go soft cap here, or else I'm gonna get frustrated. Corazon is another champion who joined us from the Ox Ventures Guild. Corazon's a pirate. I know it says rogue, but let's be honest. He's a human pirate. Base attack is Shadow Step. Corazon attacks a random enemy from the shadows. We can see it going off here at some point. There he goes. He jumps around behind and attacks him from the back. Is that familiar? Jarlaxle familiar? Anybody? Jarlaxle? What? Jarlaxle? Yeah. Pirate's Code, Corazon's first ability, increases the damage of all neutral champions in the formation by 1%. Now, this, I'm happy they called this out, because a lot of times they don't. The parentheses after this is important. Increases the damage of all neutral, parentheses, good/evil, axis, close parentheses, champions in the formation. What does this mean? Up here in alignment, this left-hand side is the lawful, neutral, chaotic axis. So that means this neutral, because it's the good-evil axis, is not what you would see on the left-hand side of someone's alignment. It is what you would see on the right-hand side. This is the good, neutral, evil side of the alignment. How does this play out? Here we go. Well, that didn't help. Oh, jeez. Can I get somebody that's not neutral? Thanks. Appreciate it. So here we see that this is where a good would show up, right? Lawful good. So if it shows up that someone like on the left-hand side said, here we go, neutral good, this is not the neutral that Corazon is working with, because it's on the wrong side. This is on the left side. He's on the right side, on this good side. So if you see good and evil show up with a neutral, it is not what works with Corazon. I had a lot of confusion with this when it came out. So I do like that they actually put in the parentheses, hey, we're talking about the good-evil axis here. Generally speaking, if you see just neutral and no axis listed, it should mean all neutral? Doesn't always, though. Doesn't always. So when you run in a situation where it doesn't, I don't know, give CNE feedback and say, hey, this needs to be called out, that it's a specific axis. Thanks. Grease is the word, is the word. Whenever a Corazon attacks, he leaves behind a moderately sized puddle of grease under the enemy attacked. Grease puddles do not hinder other champions, but do slow enemies passing through them by 25%. The maximum number of grease puddles on the screen at once is equal to the number of neutral, on that same good-evil axis, champions in the formation. The effects of grease puddles stack multiplicatively if an enemy is standing in multiple puddles at once. You'll note at the bottom it does say max grease puddles. This is based off the current formation. You can get this up to 10. Technically. This comes in handy. We're going to talk about all the achievements at the end, folks. So I will talk about all of them in turn. And this comes in handy for Corazon's achievement. So grease is something that goes out. You may have seen it when I was out here. These are these huge pools of grease. Obviously, not super useful when you're consistently killing things, because nothing's walking through them. But you all know, as you get near your wall, the formation doesn't necessarily move. And then some levels the formation doesn't move, and when they move through, they're going to move slowly. There is a fantastic interaction with Corazon's grease puddles and the ultimate that we will get to shortly. Honorary crewmates, all champions adjacent to Corazon are treated as neutral on the good-evil axis, in addition to their actual alignment. So, if I want to increase these max grease puddles, I can move people next to Corazon. Oh, God, no, they were already neutral. Which one is it? It's got to be Dahani then. There we go. I knew it was one of them. I gambled. Max grease puddles are now 4, because now I have more people next to Corazon that weren't neutral on that axis already. So you can build your formation around trying to build up grease stacks if you want. If you want. You'll need to for the achievement. Just know that this is how you can manipulate the number of grease stacks that he has, is through honorary crewmates. Specializations. You can change with distant crewmates. You can change how it works. So instead of adjacent characters becoming that neutral that he likes, it's non-adjacent characters. So the left spec, distant crewmates, is based on your formation layout and your placement of Corazon in it. So if you want to modify and have lots of grease stacks, and there's some formation layout that gives you just kind of one person off by themselves with only one adjacent, you can set it up that way and make your whole formation neutral effectively. Otherwise, if the only place you can really place him is adjacent to lots of things, then you would leave it normal and you would go with the right-hand spec. Mage Hand. Mage Hand, grease puddles now form under the furthest enemy from the formation. Instead of under the enemy attacked, effect of the puddles is increased by 10% multiplicatively. We're going to go with that one. So this makes the puddles stronger. Oops, I guess it was appropriate that the Phoenix was on there. That was Corazon's ultimate. What was it? Jarlaxle's ultimate? Corazon's ultimate. Jarlaxle's ultimate? Corazon's ultimate. Jarlaxle? No. It rains down cannonballs. Corazon's ship, the Joyful Damnation, fires flaming cannonballs from afar. This bombardment damages all enemies and lights all existing grease puddles on fire for 30 seconds. As you can see, though, it also then lights other grease puddles on fire. They catch fire for some reason. Just go with it, folks. And they're on fire for 30 seconds. That's amazing. Enemies in the flaming grease puddles are dealt 1/30th of this ultimate's damage per second and take 100% more damage while the puddle is on fire. These are burn your enemy into cinders combinations, basically. You stack up all your grease puddles under an enemy, like, say, a fixed enemy, like, oh, I don't know, Valindra, Shadow Mantle, in Asoriel's Resolve, like this, and then you light them all on fire, and for 30 seconds, it burns. God, it burns. Please make it stop burning. Help me. Oh, God, it burns. It's real good, folks. It's real good. Because you can stack up to, depending on how you place him and how many neutrals it is, it could have a lot of grease puddles, and they're all burning for 30 seconds, which means every single one of them is doing damage. Every single one of them. So if you've ever crawled a boss, if you've ever done what I like to call the crawling, where you get all 4 ghouls under an armored boss and it just deletes all the segments, well, now imagine instead of 4 ghouls, you have up to 10 of those puddles doing damage and burning things alive. It's cathartic. It's cathartic. So yeah, that's the way this works. You know what? I'm going to pause this right here, and I'm going to show you, because we've got the cooldown. Purposefully show you this time. Here's what it looks like. Lights them all on fire, and you get all these fiery puddles. And even, well, that one walked right around it. But yeah, the second they get into the damage portion of the screen, they just explode. They just explode. It's pretty fantastic. It's pretty fantastic. And because this is a situation, you can build up a super high bud. Because again, remember, ultimates are damages based off bud. You could build up super high bud with a whole different formation. Then you could swap Corazon in, let him drop a couple puddles real quick before the bud gets too low, and then ult, and then enjoy. And then enjoy the burning death. Goat Pirate increases the effective pirate's code by 1% Each time Corazon attacks, stacking additively lasts until the adventure completes. So this is a stacking ability. It ramps up based off, your leveling and some stuff and items. That basically makes his Pirate's Code buff even bigger. Again, this is the one that increases damage of neutral on the good and evil champions. So you're building usually him either around neutral champions or like an already neutral on the good evil axis DPS, or you're making sure that he is next to your DPS, right? This is so when you're talking about how do I place Corazon into formation, these are the things you want to think about. Are they already neutral on this axis? If they are, I can put Corazon anywhere I want. If they aren't, I need to put Corazon next to them to make them qualify for his buff. So he's kind of a champion that can actually, whether people qualify naturally for his buff or not, you can make them qualify, which is unique. So because of this, the Goat Pirate, he is a champion that you really want to have in from the get-go. You want them in on level 1 if you can, and you want them. If the faster you can get, well, you're not. I mean, you have to have a lot of favor to get level 1 and 320, but you can. You want to get to level 320 as quick as possible, so you have him in and getting these stacks as long as possible, because that's going to make your formation that much better, right? So the longer he is in, the better he is going to do, and that's reflected over here. You can see we've counted the current stacks, and we're getting the bonuses. Voila. So when he's it's when fairly low, it's not a huge bonus, but as you get higher and higher, it's going to get better and better. Item wise, he's a support champion. He's not a DPS, so he gets 2 support items. Then he goes Pirate's Code and Goat Pirate. Again, remember, Goat Pirate is about the Pirate's Code, but what it does is it modifies that percentage. So this is all feeding into the Pirate's Code. So the Pirate's Code, thus, is the main buffing ability you want to pay attention to for Corazon. Then he gets ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown reduction. For the feats, damage all champions, Pirate's Code, Goat Pirate. It's almost like they're just telling you, hey, here's how to use Corazon. It's all about the Pirate's Code and anything that buffs the Pirate's Code. Obviously, these two are the best feats to have because they're both the 40%, and they both, like, this one feeds into this one. So, haboom. Kaboom. That is Corazon. Up next, Dahani. Dahani should be familiar to most people, as she literally just arrived. Literally just got here. And boy, are her wings tired. No. Aarakocra Kensai Monk. She's a DPS gold find champion. Let's just say DPS. Chaotic Good from the Rivals of Waterdeep. So this adds another member of the Rivals of Waterdeep. Murderburb. Yep, Murderburb. Rivals of Waterdeep also has Celise and Shaka in it, and we will have more soon. Hopefully. Base attack, Fists of Fury. Dahani attacks a random painted enemy. What? If no enemies are painted, Dahani attacks the nearest enemy. Oh, okay. What's paint? What's the paint all about? Well, let's find out. Paint them red. When Dahani attacks, she paints the enemy red. An enemy can be painted up to 3 times. Dahani's damage is increased by 1% for each stroke of paint on the screen, stacking additively. Not on the enemy, folks. On the screen. This is important. This means the more enemies she paints they're painted on the screen, the stronger she gets. It is additive, so it's not like OMG broken status, but it is important to have as many painted stacks as possible. Friendly Rivalry. Dahani's damage is increased by 100% for each rival of Waterdeep in the formation, stacking multiplicatively. This is a nice little bonus if you happen to be using the Rivals of Waterdeep with her. But currently, because there are only 2 other rivals, that gives you 3 total, because she counts towards this herself. So it's not something you're going to necessarily build a formation around currently. But, when the other rivals arrive, then it may give that a bit more power. Way of the Brush. Dahani's damage is increased by 100%. That's just the flat. Once you get this, that's the flat number. Everything else is based off that. Dahani keeps track of the total number of enemies she has painted across all time. This is your clue that this is a permanent stacking ability. This means you can farm this, gain lots of stacks from adventure to adventure to adventure, and she gets stronger and stronger and stronger the more you use her. At certain thresholds of painted enemies, Dahani increases her layer of Way of the Brush. Each layer increases this effect by an additional 100% stacking multiplicatively. Once Dahani reaches layer 10, each additional enemy painted increases the buff by a small percent additively. So, if you have ever used Zorbu, then you know that Zorbu has permanent stacks. His start off in these small percent, and just do small percents from the beginning, and forever ad infinitum. Toragar and Black Viper are also permanent stack champions. They're a little more similar to this in the sense that they have like goals that you're getting to that create increases. But they are limited. Once you get to their max goal, there's no continued bonus. So Dahani is like the next evolution of the Black Viper and Toragar system, in the sense that you're building up to these goal levels, in her case, layers. But at the end, once you've reached that 10th layer, you can continue just stacking forever, like Zorbu. That's when it kicks into that Zorbu style. So keep that in mind. That's only after layer 10. I'm just going to preempt this question. Gaarawarr, how many kills does layer 10 take? 6.6 million. It's not kills, I should say. It's paints. 6.6 million paints. I have a chart for it in her guide on the subreddit. So hit up Gaarawarr's Guide to High Harvestide Year 5, which focuses on Dahani, and you'll see the whole chart. It's going to take a while, folks. That's higher than Zorbu to get to the point where she starts to do Zorbu stuff, like in the sense of permanent stacks. Remember, for those first 10 layers, it's just that flat 100% increase, multiplicative. It's after that she starts getting into stacking Zorbu style. So starts off, let's say, Toragar style, ends up Zorbu style. Okay. They can stack pretty quickly. We'll get into that. Let's move on. Or I consider it stacking pretty quickly. All right. Specializations: Splash of Yellow, Stroke of Green, Blotch of Blue. Yellow. You'll notice, folks, I said she's a DPS Goldfind champ, but I didn't mention any Goldfind abilities, right? Well, here's the only one. Enemies Dahani paints also gain a splash of yellow. Enemies painted in this way drop 200% more gold when they're killed. That's it, folks. That's the only gold in your kit. It is some gold. I am glad that we are seeing when you have a champion that provides some gold, that they're given the gold tag. It's not a lot of gold. It's not a lot of gold, and it's not buffed by anything. This is it. You get, and that's only if you choose the specialization. So keep that in mind. Just putting her in doesn't make her a gold find champion. It's not going to change your gold. It's not going to change your gold. Stroke of Green. Enemies Dahani paints also gain a Stroke of Green. Enemies painted in this way cause Dahani's attacks against them to damage nearby enemies as well at 50% damage. This gives her an AoE. She has to paint them first and then hit them again, but her kit's built around hitting things she's already painted. So this does give her an AoE. This helps to AoE apply stacks of paint, because while this effect doesn't chain, it does apply paint to enemies it damages. So this is how you get lots of paint stacks on the screen. This, in my opinion currently, this is the specialization you want. Because as enemies build up on your tank, you spread lots of paint around. And remember, her kit is built around the more paint stacks she has on the screen, the more damage she does. So this is what applies all that paint to everybody and ramps up her damage. Blotch of blue. Enemies Dahani paints also gain a blotch of blue. Enemies painted in this way are stunned for 2 seconds when Dahani attacks them. And boss enemies painted in this way take 400% more damage from all attacks. So this is kind of what I refer to as a boss killer specialization. If for some reason you want to focus more on a stun, you want to have a stun and you want to do more damage to bosses, this is it. But you don't get that AoE like before, and like I said, I think the AoE is a bit stronger, but you do you. You do you. So we're going to go into that AoE version. Let me just ramp that up. There we go. So that was, I chose Stroke of Green. The ultimate comes after all of this. The ultimate's a really high unlock. It's Flurry of Brushes. Dahani flings sharpened paint brushes at 5 random enemies, dealing damage and applying paint. So let's show this real quick. Well, there was only one enemy on the screen, but you see it's just like a dart of a paintbrush, and if there were lots of enemies, you'd see them fly out and target each of the enemies. But this is an additional way to apply paint on your screen to increase her damage, because remember, these paint enemies and her damage goes up for all the stacks of paint you have. So yeah, really works pretty well with her kit, and it's a multi-attack. It hits multiple targets. I don't think it hits the same target multiple times, but it might. I'd have to try it on a hit-based enemy. Item-wise, again, she's DPS, so she gets 2 self-DPS items, and she gets a Paint Them Red item and a Friendly Rivalry item, so they're really kind of banking that you're going to use them with Rivals of Waterdeep. Then this kind of tells you that you're leaving a lot of damage on the table if you're not. But like I said, right now it's not necessarily something you're building around, so this item's a little bit wasted at the moment. She gets ultimate attack and ultimate cooldown. Feat-wise, again, self-damage, and then she's got Paint Them Red, Friendly Rivalry. Again, that's what she's going for. She does get a Gold Find feat. This is the only other way to give Dahani some Gold Find, but honestly, like again, if you're throwing her in an Azaka formation, you would want to throw this feat in, and you would want her in her left specialization. But if you're pushing with her, you want to get like Paint Them Red out. I wouldn't use Friendly Rivalry in general currently, but you would if you're using both Shaka and Celise with her. Then yeah, go ahead and throw in Friendly Rivalry. But Paint Them Red, and as a DPS, grappler. That's going to give you the biggest DPS increase for her currently. Those are the 4 champions from 2021 Part 1. Or Part 3. Oh, wait. No, we have one more. Nerds, folks. You know what? No, get out of here. This is the Nerd Show now. Welcome to the Nerd Show, everybody. Nerds are the first promotional, utterly not D&D at all character to arrive in the game. Nerds arrived because Wizards of the Coast, makers of D&D, collaborated with nerds to create a set of like introductory adventures targeted at bringing in more people to playing D&D. So they created a bunch of PDF adventure modules. They statted out all these different nerds. They classed all the different nerds, so each of the different colors has their own class. Yeah. Well, yes, they came from the Nerds D&D. Well, but they made this, right? Nerds are a candy, folks. Nerds are a candy. If you don't know what nerds are a candy that I've been eating since I was a kid in the 80s. You used to like the shaker boxes, and each side has a different color in it, and you'd pull the little thing back and like have one side and maybe the other, and maybe mix them all up. Whatever. Nerds, they're candy. Nowadays, they also come in like a Nerd's rope and a Nerd's like little gummy clusters. Tastier than they really should be. They're dangerous, folks. They're dangerous. They're not available everywhere in the world, which is why we left this champion for last. Because currently, Nerds are only available if you buy nerds, get a receipt, go to the Nerds promotion website. There's a Nerds command in chat, ! Nerds. Enter in your information, an email address, and other stuff, and upload the picture of your receipt, and then you will get an email 5 to 10 minutes later with a code that you put in the game that unlocks nerds. This promotion is going on through the end of March 2022. So we got like 5 months left. After the end of March, so potentially, at some point, either in April or after, nerds will then show up in the in-game gem shop for everyone. That's over here. They will become a gem purchasable champion. So they will go from our first promotional only champion to our first gem purchasable champion. Yeah. No, they're not available everywhere. That's why eventually they will end up in the shop. Maybe find someone that that can buy them, and then shoot you an email if you're good aligned, like I am. Find someone who can shoot you a picture of their unused receipt because they already used theirs, and you can get the nerds, right? Yeah. Nerds. They're what's for dinner. No, don't. Oh man. I had to stop buying these packages. I have most of the adventures now. The more you only need to submit one receipt to get the nerds as a champion in the game. But like I said, they've made multiple nerds D&D adventure modules, and each one includes a statted out nerd for you. If you want to collect them all, like I do, then you've got to buy multiple receipts. You can't just buy multiple packs of nerd on one receipt. You've got to be that person that goes in and buys, like, I would like separate receipts for all these, or you just do what I do and you go in like once a week or so and buy nerds and then upload it and get your new adventure module. So nerds, let's talk about nerds. Nerds have different base attacks. Oh, I can't talk about nerds from this screen. Hold on, folks. I forgot. Nerds are complicated. If you don't have nerds, if you can't get nerds, don't fret too much. Nerds do not qualify by design for any patrons. So they are just a general use champion. They're a general use champion. So you can use them in time gates, you can use them in events, you can use them in the regular adventures and variants, but you can't use them in the patron stuff. Base attacks. So their race is nerds. They just are nerds. That means they don't fit into, don't go looking for them in Ashar's bonds. They're nerds. Their gender is non-binary. Their class is fighter, ranger, bard, cleric, rogue, and wizard. There's 6 different classes, one for each nerd color. The roles are support, DPS, tanking, and healing. Because they're this multi-champ that matters. You see them in a minecart on the screen. It matters what color nerds are in the cart as to what happens. And it matters which nerd is in the front for the base attack. So the basic attack changes based on the nerd that's at the front of the cart. The fighter, which is the orange nerd, leaps out of the cart and hits the nearest enemy with their shield. The ranger, which is the red nerd, shoots a random enemy with their bow. I would like to point out that because they are a tanking champion, this means if the ranger's in the front, we have a ranged tank. I'm going to skip. If the wizard, the purple one, is in the front, they launch a magical missile at a random enemy, which also means they're also a magical base attack tank. However, that's only after you shuffle the purple to the front. Their default base attack is melee. So if a variant, like, say, the Gargoyle for Alcoria, only lets you use magical base attack champions, nerds don't count because their default is melee. The Bard, the green nerd, strums their lute, sending musical notes flying toward a random enemy. The Cleric, the yellow nerd, leaps out of the cart and smacks a random enemy with their mace. And the Rogue, the pink nerd, disappears and damages the furthest enemy with their caltrops. Their ultimate, not going to lie, it's kind of useless. I get why it is what it is, but it's kind of useless. The cart, it's called Shake the Box, which is a great throwback. I mean, it's fitting. The cart shakes as the 3 nerds in the cart are removed and replaced with 3 random nerds. They could include some or all of the same nerds, because RNG. If a specialization is chosen, we'll get to that in a moment, the front nerd is always fixed and does not leave the cart. So you would just shake out the bat in the middle and the back. And a basic attack can't occur while the cart's shaking. So while this cart's a rockin', the nerds aren't a knocking heads. I don't know. Anyway, here we go. We're gonna let me. All right, we're gonna shake the box. Shake it. There we go. Now we got a fighter up front. The red is now in the middle, and the purple's in the back. And we got some shenaniganry going on with abilities. We'll talk about that in a moment. That's nerds, folks. This is how they function. So you shake them. You try to get the nerds positioned in the way you want in the cart. And then you never shake the box again. This is why I say the ult's kind of useless. Because it doesn't do damage or anything. See, 0 damage. It exists only to shake the cart. Only to shake the cart. It is one of those ultimates that once you get them where they are, you don't want a familiar roaming across the bar because it's going to shake them out of that position. So let's talk about their abilities, right? So each ability is aimed specifically at a specific nerd. So level 10 is the fighter, increases the damage of all champions behind the nerds when enemies are attacking the nerds while the fighter is active. This is kind of your tanking. This is your tanking buff. So they have to be under attack, and it's a positional formation ability because it buffs all champions behind. That means it's usurpable and observable, folks. Ranger. When the nerds attack while the ranger is active, damaged enemies take more damage for the next 15 seconds. This is a debuff. Oh god. Nerds click debuff meta. No. They share a slot with Orkira, so you can use them, yes. But yes, so they do have a debuff that causes enemies to take more damage. Bard increases the damage of champions adjacent to nerds. Another positional formation ability that's usurpable or observable. There you go. So you're already seeing that you can build nerds already to work with like Archon and Artemis, right? Cleric heals all champions in all columns in front of the nerds every second while the cleric is active. So there's a major healing source. Again, positional formation ability, observable, usurpable. Rogue. When the nerds attack while the rogue is active, they leave behind a small nerd-shaped trap. I love that part. Filled with smoke powder, which explodes after 5 seconds, dealing 10 times the nerd's normal damage. Nerds also attack a half a second faster while the rogue is active. So that's your DPS spec, like your melee DPS spec. Wizards. When the nerds attack while the wizard is active, their initial attack. This one reads weird, and I'm going to explain it better. The initial attack spawns 3 magic missiles which fly out and deal normal damage to 3 random enemies. This is not magic missile and just hits 3 enemies. This is the wizard attacks 1 target and then 3 little purple things fly out and hit 3 other targets. It's actually a really cool visual effect, and I think it's bugged right now and it's doing it even though the fighter's in the front. Let's see if we can see. So if it hits with multiple things on the screen, no, give me multiple things on the screen, thank you. Okay, no, it's direct now. Let me get the purple. Let's see if we can get the purple in the front. Basically, it would hit, and then 3 little purple beams would shoot off and go hit 3 more. So it's actually 4. It would damage 4 things at once instead of 3, which is pretty neat, in my opinion. I like the way that works anyway. And then they get one more ability down here. Orange is on it. When the fighter is active, the max health of the nerds is increased by 1%. So this is because fighter is the tank. This is going to help you get you some health to survive if you want to use nerds as a tank. Here we go with specializations, folks. That's a lot, right? It's a lot. That's because, as it explained, you pick a specialization based off who you want in the front all the time. All the time. Once you pick one of these, that's who will always be at the front of the cart and whose base attack you will always get. It will never change after this point. The other two are what will change. And yes, this is a great Easter egg, folks. Orange leader standing by. Red leader standing by. Green leader standing by. Yellow leader standing by. Pink leader standing by. Purple leader standing by. This is a nice Star Wars reference, folks. All right, I'm going to go rogue. I'm going to go rogue. Now, that didn't automatically switch the rogue into the front because I haven't shaken the box yet. So let's shake it up. Bam! Rogue's in the front. Rogue's going to start dropping that debuff attack, remember? When the nerds attack while the ranger is active. Oh, that's the ranger. Oh, I picked the ranger. Didn't I pick the ranger? I picked red. Okay. Rogue is pink. All right. Ranger, red. While the ranger is active, damaged enemies take more damage. So this is the debuff. That's what I went with. God. Talking about too many things today. Item-wise, you get an item. You get an item for the fighter, the ranger, the bard, the cleric. None for the rogue or the wizard. Rude. You get oranges on it, which is the health boost, and then you get a cooldown reduction for Shake the Box. I think they could get rid of the cooldown reduction on Shake the Boss and give something to... I mean, it's a wizard spell book. Give the wizard a bonus. I don't know, because this is, like I said, the ultimate is kind of useless once you've gotten them in once you've gotten the things out that you want. Feat-wise, it's pretty straightforward. You get damage all champions and health as the default feats. And then there's a bunch of these, again, that go specifically in. You've got the fighter, you got the ranger, you got the bard, you got the cleric. And you've got more health and more general all champions damage. So, you can specialize them very well unless you like the rogue and the wizard. And then you can't. Notice I now have a 15 overwhelm. It originally started out at 5, but it went up. It's kind of going to be based on what's going on to make them a bit more tanky. That's the nerds, folks. That's the nerds. They're fun. They're interesting. I mean, for a champion that's a promotional champion, they didn't want to make them... they specifically said they didn't want to make them overpowered, like something that you would need to have in your formation, because they knew everybody wasn't going to get them right away. So instead, they kind of made them functional, but not broken. Now, once they go live to everyone, i.e. once they hit the gem store, again, that's at the earliest, that's April of next year. Once they hit the gem store, they may see an adjustment. They have stated that, but they may not. Notice, do you see the caltrops now? They're little nerds. And then they just kind of blow up occasionally. That's great. They're super fun. All right, folks. I was going to say we're done, but we're not done. I wanted to talk about achievements for everyone. So the Nerds achievement is just based around Shake the Box. So you just got to put a familiar on on the ultimate and shake the box repeatedly. And you're going to be fine. Let's go back to Dahani. Dahani's is straightforward about just getting your layers up. You just need to reach layer 2. So that's just go use Dahani. Corazon, if I remember correctly, well, I've got to pull this up because I'm never going to find it if I try to look it up in game, because I'll just forget. I'll go to the wrong event. Corazon wants the ultimate attack to do damage to an enemy standing in 9 or more grease puddles. 9 or more. I found this was best. Obviously, you need to build a formation around lots of neutral. And remember, he can change who neutral is. So he determines, based off where you place him and what specialization you choose, how many people are neutral. So you need 9 or more. I like finding a boss that's a fixed position boss. In Corazon's event, there was a fixed position boss, or you could go to any fixed position boss in a campaign. And with the mage hand, just dump them all the puddles in the end, and you just count the number of times he attacks, and that'll tell you how many puddles are out, because he drops one every time he attacks. So let him attack 10 times, fire off his ultimate, and you've got it. So it's all about the setup. That one's all about the setup. It's not super difficult. It just takes a little bit to set up. Prudence wants you to kill 1,000 enemies while she has more than 50 glee stacks. Now remember, the max number of glee stacks is affected by the number of champions that fit what she's looking for. What is it? Good, right? Yes. She gets 10... non-good. She gets 10 extra stacks of glee for each non-good champion in the formation. So build an evil formation with at least 60 stacks. At least 60 stacks. Because remember, it says more than 50. So it needs to be at least 60 stacks. And then kill with her. She then has to kill 1,000 enemies while she has a bunch of stacks. So this is basically use Prudence as a DPS in a non-good formation. For Eliewick wants you to draw the moon card from the deck of many things 25 times. So this is basically run Eliewick repeatedly. Every time she picks the moon card, you get credit. If you really want to try to farm it, then you pick the specialization that gives her a higher chance of getting the moon card. But that's it, really. You've just got to go out and do the thing. All right, we're going to take a short break. Musical interlude. This is Eliewick's song, The Greatest Bard in the Multiverse, from Bardic Inspiration. I will be back in a moment.
She's the greatest bard in the multiverse. It all started with a car, with a flip of a wrist on morning mist. It really wasn't hard. Was a lucky draw, could have been real wrong. And then she doubled down. Well, the moon was kind, and from her own mind, she became the best around. She drew a card and took a chance. Turn it back, time to advance. Eliewick Tumblestrom didn't know what she had done. Speeding down the plane around with her brain broke and a killer riff. Planes walker, fail on hopper. The music melts hearts and minds. She's the greatest part of our time. She danced with the moon and she made a wish, then beguiled the prince of the fae. She won the heart of a dragon god, and then she went away. She's calmed the fury of all night hell and brought a demon to tears. She's twisted the mind of a great archmage with a strum and a wicked sneer. She took the deck of many things and used it to unlock her dreams. Eliewick Tumblestrom didn't know what she had done. Speeding down the plane of riff, with her brain broke and killer riff. Hands walker, fail on hopper. The music now talks in minds. She's the greatest part of our time. She's been to Kryn and Eberron, to Ravnica she's been and gone. The Feywild courts were so impressed. They gifted her the morning mist. Eliewick Tumblestrom didn't know what she
of all time, folks. Of all time. Welcome back from the break. We're now going to hit up the questions that Martin has been pulling from chat. Let's get some thank you Martins in chat. There's a couple dozen of them. So they've been working while I was talking. J-Dog with the humorous question off the bat. If yesterday was Thank Gar It's Friday, that's yeah. I think we need to change the Friday show to Thank Gar It's Friday. TGIF, folks. There's merch out there already. It's great. Is today Saturday in the Gar? I know where you're going with that. I think it needs some work. Nasnas66. When was Nerds released? In the last few months. Man, I don't remember the exact date. It was kind of a surprise. They just kind of dropped it on us out of nowhere. Yeah, that's why they're included in this 2021 Champions Part 3. This is basically a Champions that came out in July, August, September. So it's just been in the last few months. Again, they won't be available for everyone in the gem shop until April of next year or later. Hey, Super Steve, since I've heard people talking about Nerds Artemis formations, could you show us how to set one up? I mean, I guess. I mean, here's the thing. Artemis just cares about positional formation abilities, right? He wants positional formation abilities, and he wants lots of DPS in your, or lots of people that are preferably support DPS in your formation, right? This isn't even a great Nerds shake. No, that's not a great Nerd shake either. So we got to shake it up to get better Nerds shakes in here. But ultimately what you're going to want is like Fighter and Bard, and technically probably Cleric for healing. Those are the three positional formation abilities. I just prefer Ranger for the debuff. So we'll see if we can get Fighter, Ranger, and Bard in here. So that's orange, red, and green. We'll get another shake here in a moment. And then basically you want to have champions around Artemis that he can observe this off of, right? So he will get, once we get the right Nerds in the cart. Well, hey, at least there's green. He would want to be adjacent. And then if we go over to formation buffs, you will see... You'll see that he has observed... Oh, man. Observed the Nerds buff, right? So he's observing it off of Prudence. He would get it normally if we were to put them... Well, he's going to observe it everywhere, actually, so it doesn't matter. Oh, we put them up here, put them back here, and then he shouldn't get it. Yeah, see, then it's just Bard from Nerds, right? Which would be 639 EO4. But if we put them next to him, you can see Bard observed, and now it's up to EO5. So in this situation, you just want to make sure that these positional formation abilities from the Nerds are hitting as many other champions that Artemis can observe from as possible. So yeah, as you can see with the healing here, he's healing. It's actually not even supposed to heal him. It's only supposed to heal in front of, but he can observe, based off his placement, any DPS that's receiving. So it's a basic Artemis thing. This is more of an Artemis question. Artemis just loves positional formation abilities. So anyone with a positional formation ability works with Artemis. How do they work? Well, read their ability, figure out how the placement is. Unlike Archon, Artemis can observe and receive at the same time. So he's like Archon 2.0. He's like a better Archon. Don't tell Archon that. He'll come after me. Is the Flames effect bug finally fixed in Epic? Flames was reactivating it. If you benched and put Eliewick again. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know anything about bugs. You'll have to ask Sean about bugs, or just go test. I do not know. Does Eliewick's health, Whimsical Leopard, does Eliewick's health debuff on enemies stack with the Modron core? Yes. All separate buffs work together. So, yeah, they all That's, yeah. So getting multiple of them is nice. How much does the positional buff on Eliewick increase by its soft cap? It depends. You know, it's all RNG based on how many of the potential night stacks you can get. Now, could you calculate if you got the best possible scenario? Sure. Like you start off on night and then every other card. If you could get every other card back to night again, there's probably a max and you could figure that out. I haven't done that because that's unrealistic gameplay, right? You just kind of have to use her and see where it ends up and have someone ready to swap in her place if she doesn't end up well in a great place. Is Prudence's Eldritch Blast the same as Makos's? Yes. Penlair, Prudence and Baloth sounds like a nice combination. Yeah, Prudence and anyone that can generate some AoE. And Baloth does that, as does Krull, right? And they're both, and they're evil, so Prudence loves it. Anyone have a table of the good evil axis versus the other? I don't know what that means. Phoenix Fire. I'm not really sure what you're looking for. I mean, it's anything that has the good, neutral, evil on it that's on the right-hand side in the alignment. So I don't know that, you know, over here, as long as it shows on the right-hand side neutral, that's what you're looking for. Axis is, whenever you're doing an axis, yeah, it's confusing, right? Because on one side you've got like lawful, neutral, chaotic, and then on the other you've got good, neutral, evil. And then they all could cross over. But all that we're talking about here is you want neutral on this one axis, and that's it. That's all that matters. They can be good neutral, they can be neutral neutral, and they can be evil neutral. No. They can be lawful neutral. Even I'm getting confused now. They can be lawful neutral, they can be neutral neutral, or they can be chaotic neutral. But if you see good or evil show up, you've got the wrong neutral. This is what people were doing, is they were putting neutral good in and neutral evil in. And they're like, why isn't it working? And it's like, because that's not the right axis. Wait until they have a true neutral only mechanic. Oh, I mean, there are a couple true, what are referred to as true neutral champions in the game, and that's just neutral neutral. There are a couple. There's not going to, I doubt there will be a mechanic before it because there's only like 2 champions in the game that would apply to. Should you use Orkira before Corazon's ultimate? I mean, you could. You can stack up all kinds of different combinations for using things. You know, anything that's going to increase the damage something takes from someone else is useful. Who are the other rivals of Waterdeep? Currently in the game, Celise and Shaka. You'd have to look up Rivals of Waterdeep to get the other 3 because they change. The Rivals of Waterdeep are now, I think, in their 11th season, which is amazing, folks. They've had some different people on through the different seasons, and I'm not up to date on who the current cast is. Victor Correa. Tahani stacks is more for Zorbu or Torgar stacks? It's both. It's a combination of both. It starts off as Torgar and it turns into Zorbu. Penlair, does Tahani count stacks from enemies that survived because of the champions retreating? Yes, because she's just painting enemies. So she doesn't even have to kill them. You can actually put together people have already gone out and done this. You can build a formation that has Torgar, Zorbu, and Tahani in it. And make it so that Torgar is adjacent to Zorbu, but Torgar isn't getting kills, and Tahani isn't getting kills, just Zorbu is getting kills, and you stack up all 3 of them at once, because Tahani paints them, Zorbu kills them, and Torgar gets credit for kills because he's adjacent. So you can combine these stacking champions to try to max them all at once if you want. But yeah, Tahani specifically does not have to kill things. She just has to paint them. But in an ideal situation, you're painting things, killing them, painting things, killing them, painting things, so that you can reset the paint and keep painting, because she only gets a max of, she only gets credit for painting an enemy once, I believe. So you want to kill them off. Tahani does count for Morgaine, though, regardless of spec, right? Yes, because Morgaine Morgaine is a support champion, support DPS, or support gold find champion, even though she provides no gold find. She actually takes your gold away. Who has an ability that buffs based off the number of champions with the gold find tag. So Dahani counts towards that. This is why I think they need to go back through and just make sure that the other gold champions that provide gold like Dahani does, which is not a whole lot, but still some gold, also have that tag. Nissenby, does the blue stroke debuff disappear after she leaves the formation? All of Dahani's kind of paints and stuff disappear when she leaves the formation. None of them are sticky. What happens if I... oh, no, that's not... Are nerds decent in any formational situation so far? I mean, yeah. I mean, they're a functional champion. Are they going to be the best champion in every situation? No. Could there potentially be a champion where they're super useful, or a situation where they're super useful? Yeah. Can I call that out right now with, 200 variants in the game, probably 300 total adventures that they could qualify for, not counting events and time gates? No. This game is about building up a bench of champions so that you have lots of different tools in your toolbox to attack any given situation. How often you use those, I don't know. Sometimes, hey, look, there are times where I would love to just have one additional champion in a formation, and if nerds end up being that champion, I'm happy with it. Like, sometimes you just need one more solid buffer, like someone that can provide any kind of buffs, and nerds provides buffs and healing. Nerds count for split the party, don't they? Yeah, you can use nerds and split the party. That's a basic adventure. So any non-patron stuff nerds can do, including Trials of Mount Tiamat. When you talk about active, does that mean they're the one in the front of the cart? No, active just means they're in the cart. Now, the base attack is when they're in the front of the cart. Or D&D nerds can show up in stores? Yes. I see them all over the place now. Kevin, so wait, the nerds drop pop rock caltrops? No, they drop nerds caltrops. It looks like nerds, and then they explode. Do stacks for Dahani and also Torgar and Zorbu track while offline? Yes, but very slowly. You will never get the same kind of bonus from... I saw that. You'll never get the same kind of stat gain offline or in the background as you do active. If you're going for that, you want to be in the active part. Corazon versus Human for an Ashara formation. The Mad Alchemist 71. First off, Mad Alchemist 71. Thank you for my birthday present. If you don't know, folks, it's my birthday on Monday. I'm throwing a party for myself on Sunday on my channel. There's a post about it on the subreddit. If you want to hit it up, if you've got some free time on Sunday, come stop by. But I had I put up my wish list on Amazon if anybody wanted to buy me a present. Mad Alchemist, thank you. Appreciate it. Can't wait to dive into those books. So Corazon versus Human for an Ashara formation. I mean, a lot of that's going to depend on your gear and item levels. I use Human more often because I run Short Folk Bond. But it really depends on the situation that I'm in. I like Corazon for his ultimate. But, yeah. So I might swap him in if I want to burn something alive. Yeah. I don't know. I haven't tried to do a run with just Corazon in from the beginning to see how high I could get the attack stacks up. I mean, arguably, if you wanted to run a very long time, his buff could ramp up, but I don't know what the math on that is. Scythe, so could you have a full stack of enemies and take Dahani out and then put her back in and get credit for painting all the enemies again? Possibly. That's a lot of effort, though. That's a lot of effort. but you could easily check, right? You can easily go in towards your wall, throw her in, paint everyone, pull her out. Like, you could remove a bunch of champions, so you just have enemies stacking up on the tank. And then see, are you swapping in and out? Is it getting a lot? The better way to do it is to find an adventure or a variant where you get those... you get the restriction that is like, when you kill an enemy, they get back up again after 3 or 5 seconds. A popular one is Relentless Peril in Avernus. Because you can get 100 of them on the screen at once, paint them, kill them, they reset themselves, and you just run that. As long as your tank doesn't die, you can run that forever. And you can set it up on a level so that Dahani is painting and killing them all, and your tank never dies. You can set that up, and then you just run lots of speed potions and your speed stuff, and you can do it. That's probably better than the manual trying to swap in and out. But if you're like me and you already did Relentless Peril and can't go stack Dahani there, maybe you got to find a different way. Going back to general questions, we got about a half an hour left. Let's see if we can get through all of these. Is there a collection of champions by their slot somewhere on the Reddit? Probably not on the Reddit, but there are fan sites that offer that. You can find those resources in the Discord usually. Somebody probably answered telling you some in chat by now. Who are a couple of other gold characters. There's a lot of gold find champions. Jarlaxle is the first one. Jarlaxle is the first gold find tagged champion you will get. Bruenor technically is the first champion that has some gold find in his kit. It's just not a lot. But yeah, usually you'll see... you will see them say DPS gold here. Jarlaxle, the big boy in the gold formations. He's the one, and he's a default champion. He gets tons of usage. But a lot of the champions in slot 4 are gold find champions. So Jarlaxle, Stokey, Ishii. I want to say, does Palton? Yeah, Palton has some gold find, I think. Yeah, and Baloth. Baloth's the the power combo. He's got some decent gold find, but lots of support buffage. So the support buffage helps push you even further, which gets you even more than like even a Jarlaxle can get. But yeah, there's a lot. But there are also champions that don't have a gold find tag that give gold, like Archon. Archon has a feat and an item that both provide gold, but he doesn't have a gold find tag. Raul Fernandez, what happens if I buy a pack with a feat I already own? Okay, so if you bought the feat with gems, this is what this question is. So if you go in and you buy a pack, or if you buy a feat with gems, 50k gems, but then you go and you buy the DLC pack that was where that feat originated from, because in this game, if they put in a feat for cash, it's instantly available for 50,000 gems on that champion. So if you buy it with gems first, and then you buy the DLC pack for cash, you get the gems refunded back to you. You do get the gems refunded back to you. Tangar, how many gems do you have? Currently 277,000, which is, I mean, that's a lot for a new player, but for me, that's actually, for an in-game player, that's probably super low. I don't get as much gem farming as I'd like to, and then I spend a lot every event. Not everybody does that. Easeldaft, can you give me a tip for a game changer Avernus champion? So somebody to use in Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus that's a game changer? I mean, it's tough for me to just give you one champion, because I don't know what other champions you already have. Avernus is a 3-tank frontline, so having solid tanks is a big deal. In my opinion, the best tank in the game is Ayla. Briv makes a great second tank in that situation, and then you combine that with like Tyrell in his wild shape, and you've got a solid tanky front line. Otherwise, like putting like an Orkira all the way in the back is great. Having an Avern in there is great. But really, Avernus wants a really solid front line. So having a good front line is probably a good place to start. Good place to start. Yeah. What's a solid formation for Trials of Mount Tiamat? I can't really answer that question. In Trials of Mount Tiamat, everyone gets different restrictions, and the restrictions change each day. So there's no way for me to give you just a formation that you could use, because some of the champions that I might give to you could be restricted. Trials of Mount Tiamat is end-game content. I make this very clear. You may start dipping your toe into it in the mid-game, but it is end-game content. You need to know how to build a formation. You need to know. If you haven't learned by the time you get to Trials, it's time to back up and go read Formations 101 on my guide page and start learning how to build your own formations. It is the strongest foundational tool you can put in your tool belt for this game, is building your own formations. Don't just use somebody else's, because those other people have different rarities of gear. They have different guilds on their gear. They have different item levels on their gear. They have, there's a lot of variance. They might have different feats. Like, all of those things, like, can take a champion from just being okay and make them amazing. So, and they might have a different bench. So they're using specific champions because their bench is that way. Like, yeah. Really got to work on just building your own formation. There are only a few instances in the game where people can truly share formations, because the variant is so restricted you can only use a certain number of champions. Or it's something like Split the Party 1 and 2. Can I tell you how to get through Split the Party 1 and 2? Yeah, I can literally walk you right through it using core champions. I did it. You can check my guide on the subreddit. I put the formations in there. Anybody that qualifies for Split the Party 1 and 2 just qualifies. The second you qualify, you can use my guide to complete those adventures using the steps I outlined. But that isn't the same. That isn't true for everything in this game. There are very small numbers of instances of that. The WoW Collector in High Harvesttide points Dwarven Splat achievement. How the heck do I do it? I go over this in my guide. It's basically in my guide to Pwent. Step 1, you have to get kind of far forward in your formation or in your progress, so that only your DPS is killing anything, and when they do attack, they wipe out everything on the screen. This is important. Them or an ultimate wipes out everything on the screen. I think when I did this, I used like Zorbu. So having like an AoE type champion, you don't have to use Zorbu, but having an AoE champion or an AoE ultimate that can wipe out everything on the screen is where you want to get your progress to. Once you get there, you remove your DPS and you let 25 enemies build up on your tank. You're going to have to count or figure it out based off their ability ramps. This is part of the having to do this. It's learning how to set this up. Then you want to look at Pwent's timer for the ability for count them off, because it ticks down on a cycle, and you don't want to start this when he's at like 3 or 4 on his timer, because it's about to run out. You want to start it when his timer just resets. When his timer resets, you ult with him. His ult rounds up all the enemies and applies his bleed to everyone. Then you drag in your DPS. You let your DPS get an attack in, either to refresh your bud or to wipe everything out, one or the other. If they didn't wipe everything out, you hit an AoE ult to wipe everything out after they set your bud. That instantly kills everything on the screen. That maxes out Pwent stacks. And if you did this fast enough, You have more than 6 seconds with him at max stacks. If you don't get this right away on one try, you just have to keep doing it until you get the timing right to group everyone up, wipe them all out, and leave him enough time to count down those 6 seconds. Again, that's written out in my point guide. Was Kreidl's own DPS specialization fixed? I know Kreidl had an adjustment fixed to something so that he actually got his own buff. I don't know if that's made Kreidl useful or not. Kreidl's one of like 3 or 4 champions that in this game currently haven't been traditionally super useful. Half B, how does grease slowing compare to other slow mechanics like Talon, Gaarawarr, or Penelope? I don't know that I compare slow mechanics that much, to be quite honest. So I'm not sure. The only slow mechanic I pay much attention to, I mean, I like it when they're slowing things. I use Talon and Gaarawarr and Penelope to slow things. It's different. Like Grease sits in a position kind of like Talon's. Talon throws down his caltrops and slows things in a position. Gaarawarr just slows everything around what she hits in her Arctic spec. And Penelope does the same. But the only one I really pay much attention to is Havilar's slow off her ult, because that one you can stack infinitely and freeze enemies in place. So as it is with most things in this game, you really only pay attention to the strongest thing, and the strongest thing is Havilar's ultimate slow. So yeah, I haven't compared the others. Slows aren't like slows are nice because they're survivability, they're crowd control, but they're basically survivability functionality for your tank line against melee opponents because it slows down their ability to get to you. Gromma has the built-in cooldown reduction, like basic attack slow too, though. Question: my max push is reached with a Shara, so I can't stack Crawl Gold and spread it from ads when I Zaka farm. No, you still can. Which is more important, Crawl stacks at lower level or just push higher? You can still find a place to use Crawl. I mean, yeah, you can't use a Zaka, so you might have to back off a little bit, but you can compare and you'll see how far do you have to back off. I don't know who else you can use. Like, I don't know what other DPS you can change to. So it's going to depend on what's available to you. But I know on my newer player account, my Crawl plus Strix combination is almost as strong as my Ashara push with triple bond. Just because of gear. So you're going to have to figure out how far off you might have to fall. Otherwise, you'll have to settle for 10 stacks on something that you single out with Ashara and then switch into Crawl. Right? You can still grab your 10 stacks, but at the very least. And you'll have to figure out which is better. Falling back and getting 30 to 40 stacks if you've got both Virulent Strain feats, or just sitting. If you don't have both Virulent Strain feats, then just grab the 10 stacks on something you single out at your wall. But if you have both and you can get 30 to 40 stacks, it's usually worth dropping back a little bit, not a ton. Graydon, when do you feel Morgaine's paid up front comes online? Oh, I don't know, because you always just want to give it whatever the highest amount of farm you can is. But now I'm actually really upset because I pushed real deep in the event yesterday, and I got the most event favor I've ever bothered to get, and I forgot to put Morgaine in. I'm upset with myself now. I have E55, Shantaea's favor. That would have given a couple orders of magnitude to Morgaine, and I forgot to do it. But yeah, when you're Azaka farming, you want to remember to swap Morgaine in. When you're Azaka farming further than you have before and getting more gold than you have before, then you swap Morgaine in and you pick up that extra gold. I don't know where she comes online as a strong support. I have no way to figure that out, really. Someone may have done the math and can compare. It's because it's just going to vary based off what your other supports are offering. And that's always a moving bar. Fickle Fortune, what's the best DPS for Vajra variants? Is it Shara not? I can't remember. If it's not a Shara, then it's usually Zorbu. But again, the restrictions are going to change. Restrictions are gonna change who you have available. So it's always whoever gives you the most progress with the champions you have available. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Okay, yeah, Shara isn't available. So Crawl plus somebody. And that somebody in the past was Zorbu. But again, he won't be available for everybody. He won't be available for everybody. Carrion, for the current event champions, I have 5 blue and 1 purple. Which one should I focus on? All of them equally. None of them are standout champions currently. If you want to gamble on Dahani, you can gamble on Dahani, but she's going to require a huge time investment to get remotely close as a DPS to what a Shara is as a base. It's tough. Perkine, hello. I'm one of the many players who joined after the Steam success in Europe. Thanks for advice. Keep talking the way you do. It's a pleasure to understand. An American, when you're not. The game's good, but you were the spice that turns it from good to great. Hug from France. Yeah, you're welcome. That wasn't a question, but appreciate it. Torgar over Puent. I mean, you could make judgment calls if you want. I'll be honest. I've used Puent more in this game than I've used Torgar, so take that as you will. How favor you in Trials of Tiamat? I mean, how do I get? How am I doing in Trials of Tiamat? Oh, hold on. Yes, I was muted, but hey, guess what, folks? There's captions, so you can still know what I was saying. So how am I doing in Trials of Tiamat? I'm doing okay. I keep completing whatever I try. So I'm doing okay. How do you get favor? You just push. It's like any other campaign. It is its own unique campaign. It runs like a time gate in the sense that it's open for a limited time period. You can build up favor, and then when it's done, you convert it back to your main campaign at 2.5% per order of magnitude. Unlike an event, which is 10% per order of magnitude. So you just have to farm favor like you would anywhere else if you need it. I didn't know reading was required for this stream. I'm out. Yeah. Captions exist, but it's broken English. I mean, so is my speech, so half the time. Yeah, I think. There we go. How much favor do you need to end alone? Oh, like to do trials alone? It's less about favor and more about power, and so that's hard to say. I mean, the whole thing about going into trials is on day one, you want to be able to push and farm, potentially repeatedly, until you can soft cap all your champions. That's probably in the E23 to 25 range now, in terms of favor. I mean, on my account, I can soft cap on my first run, so I don't need any favor. So yeah, it really just depends on your account. But if you're trying to farm with favor and to try to solo something, then yeah, E23 to 25 is going to guarantee that you soft cap if you can't do it instantly on a zero favor run. And you try to do all those runs on day one whatever your day one is. You know, that first 24 hours, because that's going to be the least restricted you are for the entire trial. Your goal there is like, if you can hit E200 as your personal DPS contribution before adding in any of the bonus DPS, you will complete a trial on normal difficulty by yourself. Above normal difficulty, I think there's a calculator in resources, the resources channel. Someone in the trials channel can point you to it if not. But yeah, it wasn't really meant. I mean, you can do trials solo, but it wasn't really meant to be done solo. Yeah. Which spice? Sporty, scary, baby, or posh? I have no preference. My Zorbu is half mid EO5 and half mid EO4. Should I farm with the two that aren't EO5? Yeah, I feel like EO5 is kind of where you will want to get a goal of with Zorbu stacks. That's 100,000. So 100,000 or more for each of his hated races. And yeah. Anything above that is nice to have, but you'll farm above that just by using him at that point. But I think you're starting just to make sure that he's kind of popping off as a DPS and somewhat comparable and in a good strong spot, EO5. Oh, I said you're just joining, and I'm sure you've answered 100 plus times, but who's wearing the nerd skin in slot 1? The nerds are. The nerds are. They're nerds. They're nerds. Nerds are their own champion. Victor Correa, for new players with Prudence and Torgar, maybe Krond is the best time gate DPS option? No, because Prudence is the DPS. So if you have Prudence and Torgar, Krull would be your time gate DPS option for evil in that formation. Hey, Super Steve, after each trial, I've only gotten one vial. Oh, yeah. Yeah. So my experience has been trying to join the next level trial that someone started. Same. Couldn't find a legend trial this time, so I just did master again. Is this most people's experience? I don't know. I've been able to find a new group every time. But yeah, I'm right there in the same boat where I've been getting one each time. I think, didn't Mars get like 8 this time? I think he got a purple vial or a purple card. The way you look at it is it says Lesser Vial Tiamat, and each card has a different rarity, and each rarity gives a different number of vials. So the white is 1. That's what most people are getting, it seems. Green is 2, blue is 4, and purple is 8. Basically, my goal right now, because they gave us that one free prismatic vial as part of the anniversary event, when I go to load in, if I can't find a group of the next highest one, then I'm just going to start one with my vial and let people join in. I also have some extra vials because I was a tester. They gave us some extra prismatic vials, so I will be effectively, when I reach a level where no one else is able to, open something when I'm available, then I will open one with a vial until I run out of vials, and then we'll see where I'm at. But yeah, I mean, currently, like their first fix that went through that everybody's been talking about, we talked a lot about yesterday on GG2E, if you want to go back and watch, is to make sure that the difficulty of trials is where they intended it to be, because there was a bug in their scaling where it wasn't scaling correctly, and they have fixed that. So now they can go through and start balancing everything else, and they have heard our comments on the whole vial thing. So I don't know when or if it's going to change, but they know it's a hot topic in the community. Last few questions here. Is Makos one of the best combo partners for Torgar? I mean, not necessarily. He might be for you. It's going to be situational. I mean, there's no way for me to know if Makos is your best buffer for Torgar, because it's always situational based off what your bench is and who you can use in that situation. If you only have Dritz and Lazaps in the same slot as Makos, then Makos, yeah, is probably going to be your better option. Unless you need a tank and you don't have one, and then you have to throw Lazaps in. But Lazaps would be a less than stellar tank for Torgar because Torgar is not a shorty. Lodux, new to motor animation. If it's set reset at 50, it completes 50 and then resets. Yes. Maddie Lamore, has Penelope as a character been buffed? No. Like her as a character from Heroes, but the Reddit thread I saw about her seemed to suggest she's pretty bad. I use her in my pushing formations because she's a short folk that buffs, that triggers the short folk bond for Ashara, and has some, good combinations there. She's also pretty solid in a click debuff formation. Spady, I'm a new player. I've just unlocked Dritz. I've been having success with Ashara DPS. What's the next best champion to unlock now? After you unlock Dritz, you want to stay in Sword Coast long enough to grab the tier 2 global blessing, which is the +1 gems blessing, and then you want to bounce to Tomb of Annihilation and unlock Azaka as an evergreen, the same way you unlocked Dritz. That's going to wrap us up for today, folks. Remember, tomorrow, come over to my stream and hang out for my birthday party. Starts at 10 a.m. Pacific. It'll run for about 4 hours. So if you just want to stop in at some point, anytime during the day, you can. It's bring your own cake and root beer. I have my German chocolate cake ready, and I'm picking up more root beer tonight. So I will see you tomorrow. I'll also be in and out because I'm going to attempt to... hold on. I'll be in and out because I'm going to attempt to smoke a brisket tomorrow. So this could just be a whole interesting day. Who knows, folks? Come see me flounder. We're going to go out on... There isn't a song for the other champions. I was going to do a joke where I'm like, hey, it's a song for nerds. And then I was going to take you to that quote from... Or the clip from Revenge of the Nerds. But I was like, no, I'd probably get DMCA'd for that. So we're going to go out on a spooky song because it's October. So you're taking us all to in and out. Man, I wish, if I didn't stream tomorrow, I would drive to Texas and go to In and Out. But I'm going to stream instead. So take it out on the spooky song. I will see everybody tomorrow. Otherwise, I'll see you next week. Have a great weekend, everybody. Bye.
Hush, little children, and lay down your head while we tell you a story of unending dread about a creature of fire, a creature at war, a prince among demons, sinister to the core. Listen close to my words now as you snuggle in tight of this two-headed monster who devours the night. Amul longs to break free, inflicting horror and pain, and Hetherada seeks nothing but destruction to reign. When their gazes turn upon you, it brings madness. There is nothing that can save you from their malice. Demogorgon with their baleful gaze will devour the world at the end of days. Demogorgon, the sibilant beast, our multiverse shall be their feast. Demogorgon, prince of the abyss. Demogorgon, deep within the pit. Discarded, forgotten, and left for dead, the imprisoned one grew as their evil spread. When the night comes upon you at the end of the day, keep your eyes shut, don't you dare disobey. When their gazes turn upon you, it's too late. There is nothing that can save you from your fate. Demogorgon with a baffled gaze will devour tell you a story of honey.